Welcome to Escape into a Cause, the podcast inspiring Central Texans to turn good intentions into impact. I'm Stephanie Dyer, a philanthropic rookie, learning how to give back with a little help from my expert friends. Together, we'll share stories of local nonprofits, explore ways to connect, and encourage everyone to step up, unplug, and make a difference. Let's dive in and escape into a cause. Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Courtney.
And this is Escape into a Cause, and we are about to escape into SAGE Studio later today. They provide a space and channel for artists with disabilities to create and sell art. Courtney, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay, so the topic that matters that we're going to dive in today is the loneliness crisis. The name of Escape into a Cause came about because I found my time scrolling, escaping away way too often, right? So that's my guilty escape. It's Instagram or it's Facebook or it's Reddit or it's YouTube. When I have a moment to escape, I can just go scroll, look at comments, look at posts, be entertained. Do you have any guilty escapes?
Yes. No, I mean, you and I are totally aligned. For me, it's TikTok.
Okay.
And you described it beautifully. It's to be entertained.
Yes.
Like, I'm entertained by these people. And so the impending TikTok ban might actually be really good for my mental health. Because I mean,
that's around the corner, Jan 19th.
I know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. So the idea here is to trade some of this time and to be a little bit more mindful in how we spend our time. Because I don't know if you've ever gotten to this where you are 30 minutes in and you're like, what value is this
What
adding
have I done?
at this point?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And social media has always given us this illusion of connection when we know that that's really not the case. Have you seen Join or Die on Netflix?
No.
Okay. It came out about 3 or 4 months ago. It's really great. Bob Putnam is a political scientist, and he examines the decline of civic engagement in America. And he was at first looking to uncover what makes certain governments better than others. And what he eventually identified was that the best governments are ones that have had longevity of social networks and what he refers to as social capital. So I think he is the father of this, who's coined the term social capital.
Okay.
And he wrote a book in 2001, which first started as an article many years before that called Bowling Alone. He was at a bowling alley and they said, yeah, bowling leagues are down 60%. But people are still bowling. They're just bowling alone.
They're just bowling alone.
Bowling alone. I highly encourage you to watch the documentary. But he decided, okay, is it just bowling? Or is this happening in all facets of social life?
Yeah.
And he found out it is. Church going is down. Social clubs are down.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
Dinner parties are even down. So us connecting in real life is significantly down. Bob said, your chances of dying over the next year are cut by half if you join one group. So I found that very fascinating.
It's pretty strong.
It's strong.
Yeah.
But he really believes that the fate of America depends on people getting together in real life.
Hence the subject, join or die.
Yeah. Yeah. So other than Junior League, are you in any clubs or any social networks?
Yes. I joined a sorority when I was in college. I stayed connected to that sorority. I served that sorority on the national level. And so I still stay connected with those women, and I'm still very much, I feel a part of that group. And then the Booster Club at the local elementary school, involved in that. I think those are my only sort of circles now.
Yeah.
I think the Surgeon General was the first one to say, yes, loneliness and isolation is a epidemic. Yeah.
And that was just in 2023. So
Yes.
this is very recent.
Very recent.
Yeah. The U.S. Surgeon General continued to ask people how they were feeling. And a lot of words came up: isolated, invisible, insignificant. You going with the Junior League of Austin, with the Booster Club, with all these organizations, I would hope that you're feeling maybe less lonely than others. You've joined at least one group. So per Bob, your chances of dying over the next year are cut by half.
And
so
I feel good about that. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. So the fraying of social fabric in America, there's a lot of data now behind this. And this was in that 2023 article by the U.S. Surgeon General. And when he declared loneliness as the latest public health epidemic. In 1972, 45% of people trusted others. 2016, only 30%. Seems pretty low to begin with, 45%.
I know.
But decreased another 15%. So do you know the difference between loneliness and social isolation?
Now you're definitely putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. From context, I'm going to guess, is social isolation meaning there is an opportunity to join and you're intentionally choosing not to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So social isolation means that you are just not spending time with other people.
Okay.
So you are kind of like a hermit crab, and maybe you're doing what I'm doing, social media, scrolling in your room by yourself. That would be social
Yes.
isolation. Loneliness is a subjective internal state. So how do you feel?
Even if you're in a crowded room, you
Even
could still
if you're in a crowded
feel
room.
lonely. Yeah,
Exactly.
I appreciate that. Oh, yeah.
Yes. And it increases risk of premature death by 26%. Just the
Isn't that crazy?
subjective state of being lonely.
Yeah.
It's commensurate with the effects of smoking up to 15 cigarettes per day.
I mean, that is insane.
Yeah.
And yet, we're very vocal about the risks of smoking and tobacco use. And this, we're less vocal about. We
Yeah.
don't talk about the dangers of loneliness.
I agree. And I think this is why he declared it a public health
Yeah.
epidemic, and why I think Bob Putnam has been so avid about saying, go join a group, go join an organization. So over the past 20 years, there's been some data, and it is in that US Surgeon General article. 24 more hours per month are spent in social isolation compared to 20 years ago. And then for the 15 to 24-year-old demographic, it's even more stark. All the headlines are about young men and the loneliness epidemic. But I don't think it just pertains to men. And the reason I say that is I feel like there's been almost a busy epidemic among other parents. We're busy. You know, the kid has to go to one event to another logistically. The reason I really think about this is a lot of women came up to me when our children were young throughout elementary, and there were a lot of moms that vocalized that they did not connect with other moms. I think some of these moms felt lonely. They didn't feel like they were clicking enough, right, across the group. Even just comparing to our childhood, I don't know if you've observed this, but kids go around the neighborhood a lot more back when I was growing up than they do now.
Right? Like, I mean, it was just sort of open the door. Hey, mom, I'm leaving. I'll be back in 2 hours. Or I'm leaving. And then the response was always, be back by dinner time. Great. Excellent. And I can think back to my childhood, and women came over all the time to talk to my mom. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and sort of this full-time volunteer, which I think is where I get some of my philanthropic spirit from. But women would just drop by. They'd drop by to talk. They'd drop by with a meal. They'd bring their kids. And so it was this idea of sort of bringing over the casserole, right?
Yes.
And that I don't see as much. And there was very little warning, right? Like they would just show up and you're like, okay, of course. And we called everyone Aunt. Of course, Aunt Karen's here. Now it's all about making plans.
Everything is about a plan.
How do I fit into my schedule? Hey, I don't want to intrude. Don't want to interrupt. Dropped it off on the front porch because I didn't want to bother you.
Yes.
You know?
Dropped it off on the front porch. Isn't that a change?
Like, so you were right in front of my door. My whole family's on the other side of that door. And we didn't get to have an exchange.
Because we didn't want to bother you.
We didn't want to bother.
Yet there's a loneliness epidemic.
Yes. Yes.
One other study by Jeffrey Hall that I found interesting. Have you heard of the 200 hours concept?
No, tell me more.
Okay. So this is an estimation of how many hours we need to spend together.
I was hoping that you would tell me this is how you get 200 hours in your day. I'm like, yes.
Productivity. Of course you would think that.
Yes. But no, okay, continue.
No, so an estimated 50 hours together gives you about a casual friendship. About 90 hours together, that's a friend. And over 200 hours is when it starts constituting as a close friend, is what they discovered.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. So if you think about it, okay, let's go back to this
how do we
study.
track this? Yeah.
Okay. 24 hours are spent alone more per month than they were 20 years ago. So if you convert that to 4 months, you now have a friend. So people who are lonely, go spend that time that you're isolating
to make a friend.
4 months. That's what
it
it would take if you were to spend those 20 to 24 hours lost over the past 20 years. So what it's saying is that we have to invest a significant amount of time to develop strong and trusting relationships. So kind of taking this back to philanthropy, I think there's so many ways that we can connect. Are there any thoughts on how to easily connect?
What makes someone's life longer and more valuable to them is relationships, but not only relationships, some kind of contribution to the world. And that's usually done through giving service. And we've always talked about you can give treasure, time, skills, whatever it is, but that contribution, there is something that is received from that. And that does make you feel like you're a more valuable citizen on this earth. There are many benefits from volunteering your time, but one of the key benefits is a community is created by saying, hey, I'd love to help. good news. There's already a circle they're helping because you are joining something. You're joining like-minded people who are also passionate about that cause. Just by doing those simple steps, hey, I care. Hey, I have time. I'd like to join and make a difference in this world. I think you can reap a ton of benefits from it.
Right. And when I
Yeah.
think back to the three words they use, isolated, invisible, insignificant, right? I think it's much easier than we think to contribute to our community and feel more connected. You know, I've done Hungry Souls, which is a food pantry in South Austin with my son. That's on Tuesday evenings. That's an easy way for you to say, you know what? I haven't seen a girlfriend in a long time.
Yeah.
Why don't we start planning once a month that we go do Hungry Souls food pantry together and we go grab a pizza afterwards, or we go grab a glass of wine afterwards?
Yes.
That can become a tradition. I even think the same thing with Peace Park. If you're a mom that's not connecting with other moms, Peace Park allows families where there's no age requirements. You just have to have adult supervision. If you're wanting your child to bond with someone and you want to bond with that mom, say, hey, what about once a month going to Peace Park and we can grab brunch afterwards, right? So just making that more intentional connection, because if you just say, hey, we're going to go to dinner, oh, it's in 2 weeks, oh, wait, you know, it's so difficult to plan, right? But if you just earmark a certain time once a month where you can give and connect, I think there's a lot of ways to do so. I'm, again, really excited to explore more causes. And for anyone that wants to get more involved, they can sign up for the newsletter. If you go to Instagram, Facebook, the website, sign up and figure out what are those events where you can socially connect, call your friend, get your child or your spouse, and go and connect and give back.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steph.
All right. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. I am here today with Lucy Gross, the co-founder and director of external relations at SAGE Studio. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I had the pleasure of coming by the studio on Saturday and got to meet a few of the artists at SAGE Studio.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always so excited when people come and see it in person because, as I told you, it's such a visual medium and there's only so far words can take you. SAGE Studio and Gallery is a nonprofit creative space in East Austin that supports artists with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It was co-founded by myself and my partner, Katie Stahl, in 2017. And at that time, we're working with one artist at my kitchen table, and we've since grown over the last couple of years and now have a really beautiful space with a dedicated gallery and studios that artists come and work in.
And it's a gallery in what's known as Canopy.
Yeah, and we really love being over at Canopy because the entire complex is all artists and makers. And so it was really important to us that our artists be surrounded by other creatives just like them rather than being relegated to disability service spaces. And so it's a really great community and we've just felt so welcomed.
Yeah, it's really neat. I've never been there before, but there's a coffee shop. It's a whole experience. So take your families or take people that you want to hang out with, go over there on a Saturday and check it out.
I always encourage people, the first Saturday of every month is called Open Canopy from 1 to 4. And that's a great time to get a real sense of kind of the vibe. A lot of the studios are open. Sometimes there's live music. And again, that's such a great community for our artists to be in too, because they get to sort of flex their independence. They can pop over and get a cup of coffee. They can visit other artists or go to a gallery. So it feels really good to us.
That's great. Some people will ask, how do you become an artist?
We find our artists sort of in a myriad of ways. We have an online application. Anyone who's interested and fits the qualifications can go on our website. We have an application where we ask for work samples. One thing that I always preface is that I myself am not an artist, and just like not everyone with a disability is an artist. And so the folks that come and work at SAGE really are working with a dedicated practice already once they start at the studio. So I'm not a teacher. I'm really just a facilitator to get their work out there. But I've worked in disability spaces for about 15 years now. And through my work, I've been able to keep in touch with other service providers who are my talent scouts too. So they'll text me and be like, oh man, I've got a great artist for you to check out. And so that's been really helpful too. So it's half sort of active recruitment and then half, folks can go and apply on our website.
Yeah, that's great. We like to move a little bit into the numbers just a bit. So we call it the impact report. Maybe we could start with the numbers of artists.
Currently, we have 13 artists that work out of our studio space. We have open studio hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturdays. Anytime our gallery is open, we have artists working in our studio space. Our roster has 14 additional artists that we show the work of. And those are artists either that work in a medium that we can't accommodate in our studio space, such as like ceramics or working on a really large loom, or artists that live out of state.
I remember going into the studio. Of course, I got to meet 4 of your artists, which I really loved speaking with each of those and seeing their personalities. I think that's the great thing about going in person, right? Is to really get to meet the artists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always say I am the least interesting thing about SAGE, and not every artist is as comfortable with interacting with people and talking to people about their work. And I think our artists have gotten so comfortable speaking to their practice and talking about their work. So we highly encourage folks to come visit us.
Yeah, it's great. And the artwork is also different, right? They each are into very different things. I really liked King Godwin's numbers art. I know that he is someone who's outside of Texas, but I think the numbers spoke to me as an accountant.
Yes. And the colors speak to me as not an accountant. But no, I love King's work. He works out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and he does these really, as you said, beautiful, bold, intrinsically joyful pieces. And we sort of let our artists guide the conversation about how much they want to or not disclose about their disability. Some of our artists are really confident and comfortable with that. And some of our artists are like, that's not how I want to identify. But King is really comfortable sharing that he's on the autism spectrum and he has a form of synesthesia called numeric synesthesia. So numbers trigger different color responses and different emotions. So at the end of his practice, he goes in with a paint marker and adds this layer of numbers, as you said, that he perceives to be really joyful, happy numbers. And so they do have this kaleidoscopic or mosaic quality that's really gorgeous.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. Talking a little bit more about numbers, how many in-house exhibitions do you have per year that people can come by?
So we do 7 in-house exhibitions, and each of our shows runs for about 6 weeks.
And I know employee-wise, y'all are a small team.
We are a very small team. So for a long time, Katie, my co-founder, and myself were the only employees. And for an even longer time before that, it was purely a passion project. Just recently, we've added a 3rd team member, a part-time studio facilitator that helps sort of work with some of our artists during the week. And that's been really exciting.
That's great. And there's a little bit of a financial impact that you can share, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From the beginning, it was really important to us that our artists be paid as working artists and the commission split that they get be in line with any contemporary gallery. So our artists earn a 50% commission on all original artwork sold. To date, we've paid over $100,000 in commissions to our artists, which is really exciting. Last year, we paid out about $30,000 to our artists. Our sort of mission was built on the fact that only 9% of Texans with disabilities are gainfully employed. I saw firsthand that a lot of times the job possibilities or opportunities were really limited and relegated to convenience stores and groceries. For some people, that's exactly what they want to do, and then for other people, being able to explore a more non-traditional career path like art making is what they want to do. And I want to make sure we're providing our artists with those opportunities.
Right. And I know I was talking to Chris, and he has a full-time job outside of the art.
Yes.
So
Chris is
Yeah.
one of the busiest people we know. So he is one of the artists that comes on Saturdays because he has a full-time job Monday through Friday. He's also an aspiring DJ. Just like it is for any artist, making your living as an artist is certainly a challenge. And different artists have different goals. I would say a good number of our artists are very motivated by selling their work, and they really love the idea that their art is being appreciated by, folks outside the studio and gets to have a new life and a new home.
wasn't that what we all want is to find meaning in our careers?
Absolutely.
Yeah, get paid for something that you enjoy doing, and it provides meaning to other people as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel very lucky that somehow I have sort of lucked into doing exactly that. And so I'm very grateful to our artists. I always remind them, they are the reason I have a job. I'm not the talent. And so it's really wonderful to get to do what I do.
Yeah, that is wonderful. So beyond the numbers, I'd love to hear some stories that you could share.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first started, it was just myself, my co-founder, and one artist. And that artist's name is Rick Fleming. So I've known Rick now for about 13 years. We've really built a super close relationship, and we met at another program that he was a part of, and my co-founder Katie and I worked together there, and both not only loved Rick, but really were drawn to his sensibilities and his work. And so after we sort of split paths and went in different career directions, we would often joke like, well, we should just start something just so we can hang out with Rick. And so I feel like this entire venture was all just sort of a ploy to get to hang out with Rick. And Rick is, like Chris, someone who has just had an incredible life. He's a drummer. He's a former bodybuilder. He had been commissioned to do merchandise for the Biden campaign in 2020. And he is by far one of our highest grossing artists. People love his work. People have had his work tattooed on their bodies. And so
Wow.
Rick is definitely a great character to meet in the studio. And he's there 3 days a week. And then the only artist that comes more than Rick, his name is Montrell Beverly. And he started coming to SAGE about 3 years ago, right after he graduated from high school. And Montrell is one of the few artists in our studio that works in 3-dimensional art making, and his medium is pipe cleaners, which was not a medium that I was super familiar with. And now the amount of orders that we make for pipe cleaners, I think, has really changed our algorithm of suggested advertising. Currently, he's working on these really large scale interpretations of Renaissance paintings like The Birth of Venus and The Last Supper. And when Montrell came to us, he was also just a young man, and he was sort of at that point in his life where he needed some support to go into the next phase of adulthood. And so he didn't have a birth certificate, which meant he couldn't get a photo ID, which meant that he couldn't open a bank account. And so we were trying to figure out, like, how do we create a sustainable path to adulthood? And so we were able to get him a replacement birth certificate, which enabled me to take him and get a photo ID. We opened his bank account, and he also soon thereafter was able to flash his photo ID when we took him to New York City. It was his first time on an airplane. He was very cool, calm, and collected. And we had the opportunity to show his work at the Outsider Art Fair, which is an international art fair. Coming up at the end of next month will be his 3rd time going to New York and his 3rd time showing at the fair. So it's super cool. We're really, really proud of him.
Wow, that's amazing. My 16-year-old son, you met
Yes,
Jaden.
yes.
And he and I came together, and I've never heard of pipe cleaning. I've never actually seen it before.
Right.
So for those that are listening that want to know, go to the website, SAGE Studio ATX, right?
Exactly.
Your website's beautiful, by the way. I love it.
It's all to the credit of my co-founder.
Okay, I really do love it. It has so much personality. To your point, those tapestries of the Last Supper and the Birth of Venus, right?
Yes.
So my son is taking AP Art History. So suddenly he saw that and he said, "Oh,
I know those."
He's like, Montrell's a Renaissance man.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and what's kind of amazing about Montrell is he's made full-size guitars. I now just commission Montrell to do anytime I have a friend with a birthday, because I will always be the best gift at the party. But he does pipe cleaner portraits. He made a shrimp cocktail for one of my friends. I mean, really, if you can kind of dream it up, he can make it out of pipe cleaners, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, when you told me that he could do custom work, Jaden and I were on our way home and we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, he could do, our family portrait. And
Yes.
Jane was like, no, I'd like him to do a vinyl cover album.
Yes,
So we
I
were
mean,
fighting.
the possibilities are endless. It doesn't have to be an either or. You can both have your way.
Yeah, we were fighting over what custom requests we would make if we were to order from Montreal, but it really special work there. And another thing you mentioned that we talked to him about was he's on the board.
He is on the board. It's really important to us to have the voice of at least one of our artists on the board. And Montrell, again, he comes to the studio every day that we're open. So he has a really good sense of all the personalities, all the different needs of the artists. And he's been great. Also just getting to see, that pivotal moment of becoming an adult and really coming into your own is so special. And he's certainly handled his early 20s with more grace than I did. So I'm always very impressed by his maturity and sense of humor.
Yeah, I think, what did he say, that he feels like an old man?
Constantly. And I tell him, that really hurts my feelings as someone just a little bit older than 21,
Yeah, I said,
Yeah.
we're ancient, I guess.
Yes.
But
We won't even go there with him. I've stopped asking the artist how old they think I am, because the answer never makes me feel great.
Okay, well, loved meeting Montrell. I loved meeting Rick as well.
Yeah.
Very special. He has met President Biden.
He has. I've never met anyone besides Rick who has met a president. He had a Zoom call in conjunction with the merchandise launch during the campaign. And really, we get so excited about that. And mostly Rick wants to know how many Mountain Dews or Coca-Colas his commission check can buy. And usually the answer is a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot of them.
I love that. So commissions, as long as they translate to Mountain Dew.
Yes. Yeah. That's the currency we're dealing in.
I love that. Okay. So beyond these stories, one of the things that I want to have people talk about is really talk about themselves. I know it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. I want to keep a good thing going, and I'd love for you to share. Have you done anything recently that you're proud of?
I was thinking about this today. For me, this was a passion project. It was something I would do nights and weekends. I was a full-time special education teacher. Being able to have this be my full-time job feels like a huge accomplishment. The fact that people other than my mom are buying art or have my business card makes me feel like the mission has really resonated and is doing what it's supposed to do. And I have no experience starting a business. I have no experience having an art gallery. I think there was a sense of this is something that should exist in Austin. And I thought it was something that would resonate with people in the community. And so it's doing that. And that feels great.
I'm very proud of you, because
Thank you.
I walked into the studio and I immediately knew that this was something special. Yeah, you should be so proud of yourself. And I really encourage everyone to go here, to go to SAGE Studio. There's a lot of other art studios. You can make an event of it. You can bring the family, but highly encourage meeting the artists. I think that is really the icing on the cake was meeting the artist. I want to talk about one of your good brags that you didn't mention, and you should really brag about this. So you and Rick share the same birthday. And you are?
I am a lifelong vegetarian, and Rick is an avid fried chicken fan. And I think every year since I've known him, for our birthday, we have gone to either KFC or Popeyes, which does sort of limit my menu options. I now have very strong feelings on who has the best biscuit and Diet Coke fountain soda. It shows what love I have for Rick, because there are very few people that I would, spend my birthday dinner at KFC with.
I don't know a vegetarian in the world that would spend their birthday at KFC. So that really does show you
Again,
love.
yes. To know Rick, you would realize how persuasive he is. And so this year he keeps telling me that maybe we're going to switch it up and get some Chinese food. But I feel like I've heard that before and I don't want to get my hopes up.
Okay, I'm all for the Chinese food. That sounds delicious. And you can work around that as a
I can work around that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot more options for me, I think.
Yeah, that's great. I really loved all the different personalities.
Chris and Rick can tell you pretty much any band, pre-1990 that you want to talk about, they would love to talk to you about REO Speedwagon or Bryan Adams as long as you're interested. Duran Duran.
Oh yeah, I got a sense of pop culture
Absolutely.
on the walls. Yeah.
Pop culture is a big theme in our studio. I always say like music and fast food. We have a lot of Whataburger themed art as well, you know?
Which I love that. That used to be my nickname for some of high school was Whataburger. So I might need to go get some of that artwork.
We have plenty of it for you. Yeah, absolutely.
I also, Sam, we didn't talk about Sam, and Sam does make puppets.
He does. He would correct you and say they're Muppets because
that's
I
right.
get corrected quite a bit. But yeah, Sam's from a very young age has really loved and idolized Jim Henson. And he is not only an incredible 2D artist, but also sews and creates and carves these truly like spot on replicas of all of the Sesame Street characters. And he had a solo show in our gallery where we essentially converted the gallery into Sesame Street. We had, I think, something like 30 of his puppets on display. And, you know, people would walk in and be like, oh my gosh, there's so many of them. I can't believe you made all of these. What they didn't know is that that's like a very small fraction. So Sam has hundreds and hundreds of puppets in his room.
As Jaden and I were talking about art, I said, maybe I need Sam to make a Muppet of me.
Oh, yeah.
So that he can take it to college and remember to do his chores.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what, you know, young, you know, freshman doesn't want a Muppet of their mom?
I think
their dorm room?
I thought he was all for it.
Yep. Absolutely.
A great graduation gift.
Yes, exactly what I'm sure he wants.
When I walked in, also what struck me, of course, was you are not an artist. And there was no art teacher there.
Correct.
They really are independent.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that is part of our application process is just everyone that's there is coming in already with a developed voice. And the way I think of it is either myself, Katie, or our studio facilitator, our job is like, you know, maybe to look at source material, to brainstorm different mediums. But at the end of the day, we really want our artists to feel a sense of ownership and independence over their work.
Yeah, seems like you're achieving that. It's amazing. We do need to talk about giving listeners their chance for bragging rights. So how can they support Sage Studio? I know one, of course, buying the art.
Yeah, buying the art, in my opinion, it's a win-win. You get a beautiful piece of work and you're supporting these incredible artists. Even just coming and visiting, I think that coming into the space gives our artists the opportunity to talk about their work, to meet new people, and really continues to encourage spaces where people with and without disabilities can be sort of on equal footing and just talk and hang out with each other. We also have a membership program, which you can find on our website. So you can either do a one-time contribution, or for our sustaining donors, we have a lot of really great perks like early access to exhibitions, you know, discount on merchandise and original art. And that giving program starts at $10 a month. As I said, we are a very small team, so we do everything in-house, you know, from accounting to design to shipping. So we love, if you have a skill set that you think might be helpful to us, we are certainly not too proud to take folks up on it, like photography, design, helping us paint our gallery. So those are always super helpful as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think going beyond just showing up and buying art, right, you can do collaboration. So if anyone's a decision maker in a corporation or a business, great opportunity to collab. If you have an empty office that's really needs to liven up the space, go buy some art, fill it up, make it even one of those office spaces. I know at my company, each space has its own identity.
Totally.
Make this an identity for Sage Studio, right? And then also the collab. So FC Austin, I know both Rick and Chris, at least, both contributed to FC Austin collab. That was a really great video that's on your website. I loved that.
Yeah, that one has been super fun. So the last 2 years, we've gotten to have our artists create match day posters and be part of their artist series. And if they're interested, they get to go to the games. And it's just been a really great opportunity. We also have a collaboration that's been going on for a couple of years that we're about to do the newest iteration of. We collaborate with Holdout Brewing, which is located downtown, and we have several artists that, in addition to being artists, are also beer fans and beer drinkers. And so Chris, who you met, made a beer a couple of years ago. He is a big horror fan, so it was a Halloween release, and it was called Lagerface. He designed the can art, DJ'd the launch party, and we have an upcoming beer that'll be released on Valentine's Day called Love Henry, and it's inspired by his love of Schlitz. So it's going to be malt liquor, and who doesn't want to spend Valentine's Day drinking malt liquor? I think there are going to be hot dogs if Henry has anything to say about it. So it should be very romantic and should be a really good time.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so buy art, donate. You can join the membership program. If you're a decision maker of a company, there's loads of opportunities to connect either through collabs, merch, fill up your office space, right? I think all of those are great.
Yeah, we've collaborated with Van Shoes, Blue Dot Furniture. We were part of a project that they did where they created really gorgeous fine art prints that they sell nationwide of our artists' work. We have had the opportunity to get to outfit out Canva in their new offices. So that was really exciting. We're always super open to chatting with and seeing if there's like a way to make something work, or, if there's an artist who might be interested in teaming up.
Okay, so next event, I just want to make sure everyone knows this, Saturday, February 1st.
Correct, from 12 to 4. It is a solo show by an artist that works out of our space named Anna Burke, who does these really beautiful abstract watercolors that are sort of Rothko-esque. And we are going to have a pop-up by our incredible pastry chef who goes by the moniker Custard Prison, and it should be a lot of fun. If Anna has anything to say, we might just be listening to Little Orphan Annie soundtrack on repeat.
Okay, Chris won't be DJing.
I don't know if Chris has that on vinyl yet. I'm sure he would buy it for the opportunity to DJ. He has DJ'd our openings in the past, and he is a great DJ because he really, he gives the people what they want, like side one, track one, Toto's Africa, let's go.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, go get art, reach out to Sage with collabs, fill up your walls, take the families. If you talk about these art pieces with your children, you're going to have something on the wall that you can talk to your kids about. Go get a pipe cleaner tapestry of your family.
Yes, absolutely.
Highly encourage that. I think I'm going to be putting in an order soon with Montreal. And then Saturday, February 1st, come by.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to meet you. And I know our artists are always excited when they have an opportunity to chat with new folks.
All right. Well, thanks, Lucy.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Until next time. Hey, listeners, listen to Bob. Relationships and in-person connection will extend your life and your happiness. All right, so remember the estimated 50 hours you needed with someone to transition from an acquaintance to a casual friend? Start investing that time by inviting a friend on Saturday, February 1st at Open Canopy in Austin. SAGE Studio's exhibition, Towers by Anna Burke, will be opening from 12 to 4 p.m. If you're on Facebook and need a reminder, we post all of these events in the Escape Into a Cause community group so you never forget. I couldn't agree more that Lucy should be so incredibly proud of her work at SAGE. But I have to admit, a vegetarian on her birthday at KFC. Now, that is the type of love worth good bragging about in my book. Remember to use #GoodBrag to share with your friends and family of the good you're doing and how you're getting involved in the community. Because those are the social influencers that we need. You can also join the Escape Into a Cause Facebook community group to share with other listeners. We will cheer you on and hopefully be inspired. Remember, if you want to get involved, whether that's sharing your information with causes you care about or hearing from Escape Into a Cause on opportunities to give back, get involved by signing up on our website, Instagram, or Facebook. We have some great partners that want to give back to those that give, so we have prizes. And who doesn't want to be rewarded for doing a good thing? If you enjoyed this episode, follow and review Escape Into a Cause on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Next week, we're diving into the badass women that make up the Junior League of Austin and the huge impact that they make for children here in Austin. You don't want to miss it. So join us next week as we escape into a cause. Special thanks to Todd Thompson for editing and mixing this episode, Graham Thompson and Jaden Dyer, only 15 and 16 years old, for the fantastic music, Corey McCain for the awesome studio space at Just Push Record Studios, Michelle Anderson at Pinkle Toes Photography, Kim Nicholson for the epic branding, and Nightlight Insurance for making this podcast happen and donating to SAGE Studio.